All right, welcome. I am Jonnita Stanton. We have Reginald Perryman, Kashka Williams, and we are TSARE. This is the There's Something About Real Estate podcast where we talk all things real estate. And we have with us today Justin Oliver of Keller Williams.
And I'm very, very excited. I'm like literally, I'm so excited to be here. I feel so famous and popular. This is great.
That's funny.
So, I honestly would like to get started. You have 2 first names.
I got 4 first names.
Okay.
So my full name is Justin Edmund Morgan Oliver.
Oh. Wow.
Okay.
I
think
never
Morgan
knew
might
that.
be your last name.
Well,
but it's some people's
that's the
first
first
name.
name. Yeah.
And
That's
it's guys and girls.
I was supposed to be Edmund, and my brother, when I was born, my brother started calling, my mum was like, oh, this is Edmund, and my brother started calling me Eddie, and my mum didn't like Eddie, so then I became Justin,
Oh.
which
wow.
seems like the obvious progression.
So Justin wasn't first?
No, I was supposed to be Edmund Justin Morgan, and then they flick-flacked it.
Flip-flacked
And
it.
I heard you say mum. So
My
can
mum.
you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from?
Yes, as you may have noticed, I'm not from the metropolitan Detroit area. So I was born in England, and I lived about 2.5 hours outside of London in this fabulous little place called Bury St Edmunds, which is basically when I was a kid growing up, this was heaven's waiting room.
Okay.
I mean, I couldn't wait to leave, and now I go back. I'm like, well, this is lovely. This is like there's coffee shops, and it's a very splendid place. So I'm English, very English, not Australian.
Okay.
Everyone's like, oh, are you from Australia? I'm like, no, I'm English. Apparently my accent's just lazy.
Okay. So, I'm gonna let Reggie take. You guys spend a lot of time together. I want to see the chemistry here a little bit.
Me and Reggie, we see each other on the daily, but
Right.
normally through glass, and we just wave at each other,
Right.
and that's about it.
He's in there hustling. Right. And then I go back and I start hustling.
Okay.
Right. So I don't know the full story, but how did you get into real estate?
Do you want the full story, or do you want the abridged version?
The full story.
All right. So the full story started when I was I kind of had an unfortunate childhood.
Okay.
And I not unfortunate in just it was long story.
Right.
I didn't do very well in school,
Okay.
and I was I come from quite a well-to-do family,
Right.
And my family had sort of run out of money by the time I came along because there's a big age gap between me and my youngest brother,
Right.
And as my dad used to say to me, cheap bottle of wine, Chinese takeaway, and a blackout, and here we are. So, so like we had this big house, but I ended up going to public school, and school wasn't great.
Right.
And there was a golf course just across the street from school. So I spent a lot of time on the golf course and not a lot of time in school. And as my best man, who was my older brother at my wedding, said, I left school by mutual consent, which was more on their side than anything else. And I wanted to play professional golf.
Okay.
So I basically dropped out of school when I was 15 years old. And I have no formal education outside of my high school
Wait a minute,
base
hold
level. You want to back up on this one?
I had no.
We got a lot of stories like
Yeah.
Right.
No.
Wait. All right, keep going. I never knew that.
Oh.
Never knew that.
Hi, Reggie. I'm Justin. Nice to meet
Right.
you.
All right.
So I sort of dropped out of school in those days. You could English high school. You could finish when you were 16 and go to trade school and
Okay.
do whatever. So I literally the second I could, I was out, and I got my what they call their GCSEs at the time, and I just never went back. And I was going to go play professional golf, and that didn't go so well. As we can see, because I'm now here talking to you guys about real estate.
Right.
So I figured out at a really young age that I enjoyed the sales piece. So I was working at a driving range in the pro shop, and I was selling golf clubs and selling lessons and selling all this stuff. And for some reason, I had this massive ego. Past tense, this massive ego when I was 16 years old, and I just really enjoyed the sales piece. And so I thought, well, I'm not gonna. My one big regret in life, and I hate to say this, but my one big regret in life is I didn't give golf the time it needed.
Right.
I didn't necessarily have the best guidance. My family didn't necessarily feel that professional sport was a valid career, and I turned my back on that. But I loved the sales piece, and so I thought, well, what's the biggest thing I can sell?
Right.
And the biggest thing to me was a house.
Right.
So I went and got a job with a local real estate company in the mailroom. And suddenly selling houses, this was in the mid-90s, selling houses was taking flyers of listings and folding them and stuffing them in envelopes. And I was just in this mailroom and I'm like, this is rubbish. So this is, I don't really feel I'm not really feeling the energy of the deal here, you know.
Right.
And at one point, somebody was sick and a home needed to be shown. And in England, you don't need a license to be a real estate professional. So you can go and show a home if you work for a brokerage.
Right.
And I went to show this home and I was a bit nervous. So they gave me the brick of the cell phone. I mean, this thing, it was enormous.
Now, is that still the law in England?
You don't have to be licensed, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's go.
So when you're like the way that the transaction works there, you have an attorney on both sides.
Okay.
And
All
so
right.
the agency, there isn't buyer's agency in the UK.
Okay.
Unless you're very, very wealthy or very, very famous and you need some sort of shield.
Right.
The agency, the brokerage represents the seller.
Okay.
And so your job is a listing agent. The brokerage takes the listings,
Right.
And the public's responsibility is to go and trot around all of the agencies and get on, at least it was then, get on mailing lists and
Right.
hope that then somebody from the brokerage would call you about a new listing, or they'd see it in the paper or in the paper. Imagine that.
Right.
So suddenly this guy, he's not there, and I go and show this house, and I got this brick of the cell phone, and these people are asking me questions, and I'm 17, I don't know, I'm still trying to figure out which way is up,
Right.
and I'm flipping down the thing and calling the office, and they're like, just take a list of questions and come back. So I take this list of questions and I go back and they give me the answers, and I call these people and they're like, great, we'd like to buy it. And I'm like, wait, what?
Right.
Hold on. And this happened a few times, and just organically, suddenly I just got used to showing homes and got used to talking about homes, and things just progressed really quickly.
Wow.
And then from there, I started to gain a bit of a name for myself, because I had no fear, I had no concerns, I had no bills. I was living with my mum and dad, and it didn't matter. Whatever I did didn't matter. And I mean, me and my best friend at our sister company, we had this client. His name was Billy Bogus. And he would book appointments on Saturday afternoons so we could go to the football. And I mean, it was a blast. But I got a bit of traction, and then the phone started ringing.
Right.
And people would call me and say, hey, I mean, have you thought about moving to London? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And suddenly I find myself living in London, working for this terrific company called Kinley Folkard and Hayward in their Southfields office, which was right opposite the tube stop, which was terrific because you get all these people walking up to your windows.
Right.
All agency in the UK at that time was all storefront. And so you put the listing in the window and people would come in, and it was just this dynamic, electric environment. And that's how I got started.
Wow.
That's the story.
That's the story, right.
Yeah. Hold on, football meaning soccer.
Football meaning soccer, yes. Ipswich Town, terrible football team, terrible. But they were our local team, and Billy Bogus on a Tuesday night, me and my Bezzy mate, he would be like, Billy needs to see this house at 5:45, and that house was right next door to our local pub. So we'd go there for dinner and we'd go to the football.
So how much was your commission on that first deal?
Oh, zilch. I was on a very, very mediocre. I think my salary was £5,400.
And that's what?
And that was my base. I mean, at that point, like $7,000. My annual salary.
Oh, wow. Okay.
My annual.
But you were 17.
Yeah.
In the 90s, that still wasn't too bad.
No, and I was living with my mum, not doing anything, and stuffing envelopes at that point, basically.
Yeah, that was better than working at Wendy's.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So they didn't have a Wendy's.
And Billy Bogus didn't used to go to Wendy's. So.
Right. So go ahead.
What was the transition? I mean, I don't know. The transition from there to when you were making more money.
Well, so that was kind of an interesting one. So the phone started ringing, and I started to get this ego, and I remember talking to a buddy of mine who was in college at the time and spending most of his time either smoking weed or getting drunk. So obviously a really good life coach for me. And I said to him, I'm just going to career hop. I'm going to money hop. Right. And I started bouncing between agencies, and I would get a job with an agency and they'd give me a better salary, and this one would come with a company car, and then this one would come with a bit of commission, and this one would come with this and this. And I started bouncing around, and before you know it, I was earning I moved up to London. Like I say, I was working for this company, Kinley Folkard and Hayward. Fabulous company. They're still one of London's biggest independent brokerages. And I was, at the time, 19 years old at this point, earning serious money and doing all the things that an idiot earning serious money at 19 should not be doing. And it was an organic kind of bounce, if you like, based on hard work and real production.
Cool. So what brought you to the States?
The wrong girl.
Oh.
Wait, is this going to go on the internet?
Wait,
Hold on a second.
Don't say her name. The wrong girl. All right.
Well, so there's a bit of a backstory
All
here.
right.
How much time do we have?
We got time.
All right, okay. So in London, I work really hard, and our schedule at the brokerage, we'd work 14 days on, then we'd take a day off, and then we'd work 6, 7, 6, with a day off in between, and then we would do the 14-day stint. So we were working hard.
Right.
And I remember this very, very distinctly. I went for coffee one morning with my sister-in-law who lived in town. My sister-in-law is the most fabulous person you'll ever meet in your life. She's an incredible professional. She works in the television industry. I mean, literally the best person you're ever going to meet in your life. And at that point, she was a kind of a mentor. I admired her. I admired her career. And she said to me, like, "What are you doing? What are you doing? Like, you are going to destroy yourself if you keep doing this. You're not happy. You're working every hour under the sun. Like, what are you doing?" And after that cup of coffee, 3 weeks after that, I moved to Australia.
Just out of nowhere?
Just because something needed to change. Something needed to give up. So I moved to Australia, and I taught. I traveled around Australia. I was a cowboy on a cattle ranch, and I spent some time scuba diving and sailing, and I delivered yachts for a while. I taught scuba diving for a while, and I spent 2 or 3 years just bumming around the world, going from scuba diving instructor job to scuba diving instructor job. So in England, when you're in England, you're part of the Commonwealth, and it's a very usual thing for young people to go and take like a working holiday and go to Australia or Canada or other Commonwealth countries and travel. And the rules around the visa are you can travel for 3 months, and then you can work for 3 months. Then you have to stop working. Then you can travel a little bit. Then you work for another 3 months to get the money, so it's like a working holiday.
Right.
And so I did that, and I became a scuba diving instructor, and through PADI, the Professional Association of Diving Instructors, there's a job board, and suddenly I was exposed to all these postings around the world. And so I lived in Australia for a while, I lived in Aruba for a while, I lived in Ireland for a while, I bummed all around the world, and I kind of found myself, and in that process, I found myself in the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania, teaching scuba diving in ponds to very rich kids from New York who were on summer camps.
Right.
And I met a girl there, and we dated long distance, and she had a dual citizenship, and then eventually I moved back to England, got back into real estate because she was saying, "Look, if we're going to do something, you've got to stop flying around the world. I'd like to know where you are for at least 10 minutes. That would be helpful." And so we moved back to England. I got a job back in real estate selling houses. She moved there. And then we moved to Chicago when eventually she was like, we want to put down some roots. Let's go somewhere long term. We moved to Chicago.
Why Chicago?
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting because she was from Baltimore, Maryland.
Wow.
Maryland, whatever it's called. I don't know. I don't know. She said, "I'd like to move to Chicago." Neither of us have ever been there. And the first time either of us set foot in Chicago was when the plane landed and all our stuff was in the back of it.
Wow.
So it was literally, it was a totally blind move.
Right.
Yeah.
I need to know what happened after the plane.
Right.
Well, so the plane touched down, and then we got a rental car, and we drove to the apartment that we'd rented online without ever seeing it, hoping it wasn't going to be somewhere that we didn't want to live. And it was a very tense car ride. Long story long, our journey, her and I journey, came to an end, and she's a wonderful person. She now lives in Hawaii, and I wish her nothing but the best. Right. But that wasn't.
She smartened up.
Yeah.
She went to Hawaii.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I went to Michigan. I stayed in the Midwest for that cold. Right. So when we moved here, it was interesting. She kind of said to me, "Look, I don't have a education, a college degree, right?
Right.
She wants to move back to the States. She's like, you've got to have a college degree if you're going to do anything in America, and I don't have one. So I actually went back to school and I retrained as a cabinet maker. So believe it or not, I'm a classically trained cabinet maker. And when we
Wait,
moved
hold up. You went from scuba diver instructor
yeah.
to cabinet maker.
Yeah, from exactly. Well, that's an obvious progression.
Right.
You can't connect those dots?
No,
You
not
can't.
at all.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna go from scuba instructor to a rancher training people how to ride
Hold on, we
horses.
missed
Well,
and
that part.
Poconos.
Remember he did that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I
did
did
mention
that for
rancher,
3
yeah.
months. That was the hardest
He was
work
a
I'll ever
cop,
do.
right.
I'm never doing that
Yeah.
ever again. I'm not going back to the
That's
ranch
crazy.
anytime
Hold
soon.
on, hold on. What year was this that you moved to Chicago?
Chicago, we moved there 13 years ago.
Oh my
All
god,
right.
so this is not even that long
Yeah.
ago.
So I was in Chicago because I was in Chicago for about 10 years before I moved to Michigan.
Wow.
So anyway, I retrained as a cabinet maker, and now we opened a furniture studio, and we sold custom furniture, and that was great, fabulous business. And I've always kept my eye on real estate. I've always been involved in real estate in one way or another, right? So we have this furniture shop, and that was brutal because. Do you have any interior designers listening to this?
Probably so.
Oh, okay, sorry. Because interior design is somewhat difficult because they would be like, "Can you build this?" And you look at this drawing and you're like, "Well, that doesn't actually exist in the 3-dimensional world." But okay, cool. We'll give it the old college try. And it was too much, and I ended up wrapping that up. And it's interesting because as an entrepreneur, they tell you how hard it is to start a business, and tell you how hard it is to stop
Yeah.
it. No one ever talks about how hard it is to
Get
stop
out.
one.
Right.
And that was awful and brutal and painful and cost me everything.
Right.
At the same time as everything else is changing in my life, and it was very difficult. And then I thought, well, what am I going to do now?
Right.
So I go back to real estate.
So why Michigan?
So fast forward a few years, I'm now married again, and I've got a very, very good real estate business in Chicago. I just sold a massive lump of brick that looked like an apartment complex, but it was actually a single family home. And my new wife comes home. She'd just taken a promotion she'd become the regional business director for Michigan, Northern Ohio. And I'm standing in the kitchen with a bottle of champagne. And she walks in and says, "Hey, so we're moving to Michigan." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" She'd taken this promotion, and it was time to relocate her because traveling was too much, the
Right.
expenses, the company needed her to live where she was. And so she came out, she said, "Yeah, we're moving to Michigan." And I went, crack, and opened the bottle of champagne and was like, "Well, what just happened?"
Right. That's
Wow.
funny.
And what year was that?
That would have been April. No, sorry, that would have been December, back end of 2018.
18?
Yeah,
Yeah, that was recent.
yeah, 2018. Because we were fresh back from our wedding, and we got married in London. It was great. And then I came to Detroit in January, and we moved here in April.
Hold on, we missed a whole lot. We missed it from the store.
We're not even talking about real estate.
Yeah. So from the store to when you started operating your own brokerage. What year was
operate
that?
my own
Did you have
brokerage.
your own brokerage in Chicago, or
No.
you were just working? Okay.
No,
As a
I was attached to. I was just an associate at a small independent brokerage in downtown Chicago.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
when you started that, what year did you start that again? So you came in like 2006, 2007 to Chicago, and then you had the business, the furniture business.
Furniture shop, yeah.
And then you went back to real estate in around what year?
About 4 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that all wrapped up in about 4 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Got you. So,
Yeah.
all right.
And you were heavily involved, like with the board of realtors in Chicago and everything. So
Very.
you got really, you got really heavy into real estate, not just from the sales side, but you were doing some investing and everything like that as well. There.
Yeah, so the company the brokerage that I was with, the managing broker and the broker of record and the senior partner were all very active at a board level.
Okay.
Which I like because in England, like I said, it's unregulated, right? There's no licenses, but there is a governing body, the National Association of Estate Agents, and I was a member of that, and I always felt that elevated me there.
Right.
And then when I moved here and they were talking about the board involvement, I kind of fell into it because they would always pay the ticket and invite me to the event, and I would go because it saved me buying lunch. So
Right.
and off I went. And that was a big thing. And then I started realizing that actually that regulation was a really good thing.
Right.
Totally new thing for me. So I got very involved in the boards, and I sat on the grievance committee. I also sat on the global council,
Okay.
which put a pin in that because I got a little something about that later.
Right.
And I was really active with that board. I even ran for the board of directors, and I was slated to be a director of the Chicago Association the year that we moved away, which obviously then I couldn't obligate. So.
Right. Wow.
I want to know like benefits of that, the benefits of being active in the board like that.
Also, I'm still active in the boards here.
Mm-hmm.
So with I'm a member of GMAR. We're about to become a member of the Detroit Association as well. The when you say the benefit, do you mean the benefit to me?
Yes.
Right.
Well, sometimes you got to look beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, sitting on grievance committee, sitting on pro standards, being active in the governing bodies that uphold the standards that we as realtors stick to, the code of ethics and the fiduciary responsibility we have to our clients, there's a bigger benefit than just what it is to me. It's the benefits to the consumer.
Mm-hmm.
If you take the fiduciary responsibility that we have to our clients seriously as realtors, then you should do everything you can to uphold that and to make sure that there is accountability for mismanagement and that, and that there are opportunities created at a board level for education, for benefit to the realtor, benefit to the consumer, and somewhere where the consumer can go if it all goes wrong. Not only that, but support for the realtor outside of the brokerage, because look, not all brokerages are created equal. Not all brokerages have the ability to provide extremely beneficial training or continuing education or all the things that we need as realtors. The boards do that, and we all pay them dues.
Right.
And so what do we get in return for those dues? Now, I've been very lucky in this career, and I mean, real estate has always been the thing that has given me everything in my life, right, financially. I've dabbled in sailing, I've dabbled in scuba diving, I've dabbled in furniture. None of it really. It was a lot of fun,
Right.
but it didn't get me anywhere. Real estate has always been that piece, and sharing that, upholding that, and making sure that that's protected is way more important than any other benefit. Now, don't get me wrong, the people that tend to focus on the associations and the boards are also high-performing realtors. They're the people who can afford to donate their time.
Right.
People who can who through generating big business can afford to protect that and pass it on to other people. And so the networking that comes out of that is extraordinary.
Gotcha.
Right.
I mean, extraordinary.
Mm-hmm.
So where's your focus? Well, I don't want to go currently right now, but in terms of real estate, are you primarily focused on residential sales, commercial sales, flipping, fixing, investing?
Yeah.
Everything.
So, I mean, my primary focus at the moment. So my business is kind of split. I have I own a holding company, which is investment based, and I realized a few years back now when I was still in Chicago, I realized that I don't have a pension. I don't have any plan for retirement. Which is really weird because I'm sitting there talking to people about investing and how they can invest and how they can make money. And I distinctly remember this. I had this client when I was in England, when I was a kid in England. I remember this. There was this one guy, I can't remember his name, he was a surveyor. And there was this buy-to-let scheme that came up in England in like the late 90s. And it was a way where you could get a mortgage, where you could buy a property to rent it, to let it.
Right.
That's what they call it in England. And I was always like, oh, that's brilliant. And every time I got a house that I thought would be really good investment, I'd call him and he'd buy it. I mean, this is brilliant. So this guy now, because obviously, we're going back to the 90s and inflation and price rising and all the rest of it, this guy is a multi-basquillionaire at this point. I mean, he had more money than God love him. But I started thinking about this in Chicago, and I'm like, well, I'm telling all these people to do it. I'm helping these people do it. Why don't I do it? And then I realized, well, I just closed a furniture shop, and I haven't got any money, and And then the light bulb went off that you don't really need money to buy real estate. Well, no, let me rephrase. You don't need your own money to buy real estate. So the question then became, how can I amass wealth in a long-term position that allows me a pension where I don't really have to put too much out of pocket because I ain't got much.
Right.
And that's how it all started. And the first deal I did on my holding company was actually a driving for dollars deal. That's a whole other story. We'll put a pin in that. But my main focus now, my main focus is my holding company, because that's my long-term play. But I'm also heavily invested now in the brokerage piece, which is how Reggie knows me.
Right.
When I moved here to Michigan, I thought, well, I can either become another sales agent and go and sell homes and start again from scratch, or I can go back to commercial, or I can get involved in the business of real estate.
Right.
And through meeting people and networking and taking some time to explore my options, I discovered that actually the business of real estate was where I wanted to go to, not the practice.
Mm-hmm. What's a holding company?
What is a holding company?
Mm-hmm.
The holding company is an entity that we buy and flip homes, but we flip them to ourselves, and then we hold them and keep them as investments and rent those out. And we create wealth through recycling our money. And instead of flipping it and selling it for profit, we flip it to ourselves and hold the equity and develop 5 streams of income through one piece of property. Long term. And it's not,
Right.
I'm not going to get rich tomorrow doing it, but over the long term, it's going to yield extraordinary wealth that I won't have had to pay for.
What would be an example of 5 streams?
So we buy it and we develop it, and then we flip it to ourselves. Hopefully, when we flip it to, so effectively, what we're trying to do is recycle the money, right? So I take money, either mine, private money, whatever it is, buy the piece of property, renovate it to a point where I can then refinance it, and hopefully the money I take out is more than I put in. But I've got to obviously leave equity in the property for the terms of the mortgage. So you've got to be careful about how you buy it and how you renovate it. So stream 1 is a little bit of profit on the refinance. Stream 2 is the equity that you generate by doing that, because now I've got all my cash back,
Right.
and I've got a piece of property that I own with equity in it that if I chose to sell, I could realize that equity. So stream 2. Stream 3 is the positive cash flow on the rental income that you generate.
Right.
So hopefully now, if I've done my mathematics right and my lenders are correct and my refinance is correct and the money I put in is correct, I'm positively cash flowing on my holding costs of the property.
Right.
So I'm making $150 to $200 a door, somewhere around there. Stream 4 is the long-term appreciation, because this is a long-term play. The long-term appreciation of the value of the property over time, and also the fact that over time, my mortgage or my expenses are going to get paid by somebody else.
Right.
Because for the most part, the property is rented consistently and that mortgage is being paid down. So I'm creating long-term wealth, because in 15 years' time, when that note, 15, 20, whatever it is, when that note is paid off, I have that property free and clear, and that's now my wealth. Mm-hmm. It's not cost me anything. And then stream 5 is obviously the tax benefits of owning real estate and writing things off against it. So that's my 5 streams on one property. Right. And the goal for me, and we've recently just started doing more of this, is to do more multifamily and less single family.
So that's a version of BRRRR.
It is BRRRR.
And it's basically, I'm glad you mentioned the tax advantages and the appreciation, because when we talk about streams of income, most people only think about what I'm getting right now. Mm-hmm. So most people would have only said, well, I got one stream of income, and that's the income from the rent. But you're considering the appreciation, and saving money on taxes is another form of income.
Yeah.
Because there's less money you got to pay out.
Absolutely.
So it's great.
Well, and the thing I loved about it more than anything else, when I found out about the, can I say the name of the podcast? Because I found out about this through Beardy Brandon on Bigger Pockets.
Yeah.
And that was where my first exposure to, I think they're the ones that coined the term BRRRR, right?
Yeah.
It's always existed.
Right.
But for me, that strategy was I was always looking at this as what am I going to realize in 25 years time?
Right.
It was never about how can I increase my cash flow right now.
Right.
That's just an added benefit. If I can build my holding companies to the point where we're cash flowing 10, 15,000 a month, cool. And that's where I want to get to. I'm not there yet, but that's where I want to get to.
Right.
Now, if I can end up with a piece of property that I've basically put nothing into because I've taken all my money back out.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. Every now and again, I'm going to have to put some money in. There's going to be renovations, whatever else. But for the most part, I've put nothing into it. In 25 years' time, when that mortgage is paid off, I own that property free and clear.
Right.
Save my taxes, my property taxes, and it ain't cost me a lick.
Right.
How is that not a good thing?
Right.
And then I've got that equity that I can do whatever I want with. I can release equity to go invest in other things and do other things and make more money. I can sell it and just take the cash. Or at that point, my positive cash flow goes through the roof because all my expenses are gone.
In 25 years, 30
Right.
years. So can you elaborate on why you're okay with receiving $150 to $200 per door per month in net profit?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, if I said to you, you can buy a house for $100 a month, would you?
Yes.
Right. Well, I'm getting paid $100 a month to buy a house.
Correct.
So I'm $200 up on you.
That's too advanced. That's too advanced.
Well, it's advanced, but it's simple because sometimes people overcomplicate investing. So when you think about it that way, it's just as simple as it can get.
But explain it for the normal.
like-
All right. So let's look at it this way. If I said to you over time, if your expenses and your income were net even, but over 20 years, you can realize $100,000 in 20 years, would you do that deal?
Yes.
Absolutely, right? So that is effectively what I'm saying. My overhead and my expenses are basically net even with a little bit of positive income, which will help me to, and when I say, the way that I analyze a deal, I also factor in that my net profit, my net cash flow allows me to be stashing some money for repairs and other bits and pieces. So that $150 is basically my oh shit fund.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
If I said to you, if you could have something net even that realizes you $100,000 in 20 years time, you'd do it.
Correct.
Right? Now, when people say to me, "Oh, you get an accidental landlord,"
Right.
right? They, for whatever reason, their life changes. They can't sell their home. They don't want to short sell, whatever else. They go rent it out.
Right.
Right? And they're losing $100 a month.
Right.
And they're like, God, I'm losing $100 a month. The world is going to end. The sky is falling on my head. But if I said to you, if I flipped that script and if I said to you, would you buy that property for $100 a month? You'd be like, yep.
But they wouldn't because they don't understand what
They
you're
don't
getting.
understand.
No, but most
Right.
people that are like, I'm losing $100 a month on the property. When you flip that script, most people, when you say, would you buy it for $100? Most of them go,
Say,
well, yeah, actually, I kind of would.
But they don't know that's what they're doing.
Right.
That's what I was saying.
So when you explain that to them, and when you say, look, you've got to think about the realized long-term gain. Look, unless you're flipping for extramental profit,
Right.
or you're building, or you're in construction, real estate is a long-term play.
Right.
And the people that get really rich in real estate are the ones that amass quantity and take minimal income over time, and then amass the. I mean, think about if you earned 10 properties in our market right now, Metro Detroit, right? Over the last year, what has your net worth done?
crazy.
Yeah, you went up by $1 million easily.
Just by and so if I said
In any area.
but here's the other thing,
Right.
Right? With that, your net worth went up by $1 million.
Right.
What did your mortgage payment move up by?
Not at all.
Diddly squat.
Right.
So if I
Right.
said to you, your net negative $100 a month
Right.
over the last year,
Right.
if I could have sold somebody $100 a month to make $1 million,
Right.
I would be a basquillionaire.
right. And that's what we talk about. A lot of people don't. So a lot of people look at the real estate, they don't look at the real numbers. So what he's talking about is the real numbers. So I think we mentioned on an episode before, people that were underwater in their homes that brought in Oak Park for maybe 130, and then the home values dropped to maybe like 80. They were like, oh, I'm selling my house. I'm going to let it go because it's only worth 80. I'm losing money. I said, you didn't lose money. The bank lost money because you didn't pay 130 for it. The bank did.
Yeah.
But a lot of those people walked away they were only paying $800 or $900 a month for their mortgage. They walked away. Now that same house is worth $250 or $260.
Yep.
And it's no way you can get an Oak Park.
The number you put on a piece of paper is not the price that you pay for a property.
Exactly.
Fact, done. I will argue this one every day of the week and twice on Sundays. And I get this with people. People are like, oh, I'm overpaying. I'm like, no, you're not. What money came out of your pocket?
Right.
That's what you paid in partnership with the bank.
Yep.
Now, if it fluctuates and it dips, okay, you're only out your down payment.
Right.
And when, like, I overpaid for a multi-unit recently.
Right.
And my lender was like, dude, seriously, this is not going to cash flow. This is not. And I'm looking at it. It's a 4-unit property. And I know I'm overpaying it.
Right.
But here's the thing. I overpaid for it by writing a number on a piece of paper and walking away from the closing table with a check for $12,000.
Right. Right.
So out of my pocket came negative $12,000.
Right.
No, sorry, positive $12,000. I
Right.
made $12,000 on the deal by hedging all. And so I didn't. And my lender's like, "Don't do it. You're crazy."
Right.
Now I've cash flowed that one absolutely break even, but the value of that property has gone up over the last year just by stuff, just by things happening. It could have gone down.
Right.
It probably over time will go up. By the time I settle the accounts on all of it, it will have gone up. All I've got to do is maintain it over time to realize the value.
So you mentioned two things. A lot of people are scared of maintaining it because they feel like, oh, if something happens, then I have to come out of pocket.
Well, be a landlord. Be a landlord.
Yeah.
Give somebody a great home.
Right.
And then also enjoy the tax benefits of putting money into it.
There you go.
And on top of that, what people don't realize, even when the market goes down, rental rates don't never go down.
Yeah.
Like actually, rental rates go up because the more people that lose their homes, they can't go out and buy. They have to go out and rent.
Correct.
So now you have a bigger tenant pool.
Absolutely.
But I think the biggest issue is they microwave, right? They want the money right now. They think about the short-term gain, which is
It's the IKEA philosophy.
correct.
Right? I don't like my furniture. I'm gonna scrap it and go buy new furniture. That real estate is a long, unless, like I say, unless you're constructing, unless you're building, unless you're realizing for actualized profit right now. Real estate investing to me is a long-term play, and there are so many ways that you can make money with it, and I just chose this one because number one, when I started, I didn't have a lick. And I literally, my first deal I did driving for dollars. And it was so fun. It was literally, it was a blast.
Right.
My second deal was beyond fun because it was wicked lucrative. But it wasn't lucrative like right then.
Right.
It was the embodiment of those 5 streams of income that I'm now still sitting on and kick-started everything I want to do because it was the light bulb moment of, oh crap. Right. And I have a little spreadsheet and I track my net worth and that's super fun. And I look at that little mortgage payment and the measly amount of principal that gets knocked off. But that will keep going and that's fine. And then you tinker with the notes and you tinker with the cash flow. And if you need more cash flow, you can pay something down or not. And there are some people that don't like the idea of being over leveraged, and I get that. Yeah. And I am highly leveraged. No argument. I'm highly leveraged because I have built my portfolio with $6,000.
Wow.
I have a question.
Right.
Yeah.
It'll be an example. So if you had an opportunity to do, I guess it would be more of an assignment, but it's somebody you trust. Let's say it's a family. Maybe it's your dad.
Yeah.
And you're like, you know what? You hold the mortgage. Maybe the mortgage is about 10 to 15% under retail currently. But you had to give dad $5,000 to do the deal. So that means you maintain the mortgage. You can probably net above the mortgage in rental payments. And your investment is like $5,000 to get into that. Would you do that deal?
Who owns the title?
Dad owns the title, but you'll have all of the power, like anything you need to be able to pay off the property and be in front of it. You'll have all of those legal documents.
So
I mean,
you'll
if
be
I-
in
if I-
control of it?
Yeah.
Basically, you're paying to be
have
in
to be on
control.
title.
Is what
So you're
you're
just
saying.
assuming. So you're buying the property and assuming the mortgage. So you're doing a sub 2, right?
Basically.
If
Right.
it was legal in the state, I would do a sub 2 deal for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean the what you were saying about people getting out of property because they got underwater and were suddenly concerned.
Right.
I mean, there are so many times where actually a sub 2 deal. I got to be careful what I say because I am also a licensed broker,
Right.
and my responsibility in any situation, even when I'm doing a driving for dollars deal for myself,
Right.
or I'm doing a cash deal for myself, I've got to declare I'm a licensed broker. My responsibility is always to the seller, and I will always make sure that I'm protecting the seller in however I want to do it. What's the motivation of that seller wanting to get out of it? Like, why does Daddy want to get out of the property to me?
So if your dad is just kind of like, you know what, I don't want the property anymore, and you're my son, I want you to take care of it. Just give me. I just need you to give me a couple $1,000s to cushion my.
Well, but what's the equity in it?
The equity, it's probably like the current equity.
Well, so when Pops is saying to me, I want out of it, I want you to assume the note and deal with it, is there positive equity in the property?
There's a little bit of positive equity, but maybe not enough to get right now without doing like certain repairs.
So
That's
like
the
a
10 to
lender
15%?
the lender
Yeah.
that would give like maybe like 80% LTV loan to value probably wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Because
It's
it's only
probably
10
not
to
enough to
15%.
refinance
It's
Yeah.
a tough,
at this
you
time.
have to.
Then yeah,
it
but if-
depends on the area. It's too many. It's
Yeah,
a lot
it's
of
a lot of
variables.
variables.
There's
Right.
so many variables on that. But let's say it's in a good area.
Yeah.
It needs some repairs. I can't get 80% LTV.
Right.
Daddy just wants me to assume the mortage. I gotta stop saying Daddy.
Say
Pops,
Mom.
Pops just wants me to assume the mortgage,
Right.
and he just wants out. That's fine. But I might say to him, look, my fiduciary hat trumps a lot of things here, and I take my responsibility as an agent and as a broker really seriously, and that's why I'm so active in our boards, and why I do what I do. And so I might counsel him and say, look, there are better ways to do this.
Right.
If he pressed and said, I don't want to do that, and if he signed something that says you have explained all of my options to me, then yeah, I do a sub 2 deal as long as it was legal in the state or country that that deal was happening.
Right.
There are some places where assuming mortgages and sub 2 deals are not legal, and so I would never do those, obviously. But if in the situation that you paint, yeah, especially when you're saying that there's unrealized equity and a little bit of sweat equity or a bit of renovation and whatever else, because ultimately, you know, if it's an elderly member in my family, they're probably not going to live long enough to realize the value of any repairs that get done.
Right.
And the reality is I can over time. But I would.
But your relative may want you to do that.
Yeah, maybe
Great,
they're trying to
and
help you.
I have no problem doing it. And if he said to me, "I want you to realize the equity of this," I never did
easy.
it. Absolutely, I would. And I would also do a sub 2 deal if it helped somebody not short something. If it helped somebody not foreclose on it. If it helped somebody to protect their credit and get them out from a bad situation, I would do it. But if there was a lot of equity in the home, I never would. I'd tell them to sell it.
Okay.
So it was
I'm a
basically like if there's somebody there may not be any equity, right? Or a little bit of equity, and they're facing foreclosure. They can't put it on the market. They don't have the money to fix and repair it. There's
the
not
agents.
enough money to cover closing costs. You may come along and give them an amount that you're both satisfied with, and you take over the note, and then you start increasing the value of the property, and over time it appreciates in value.
I would only do that deal if number one, it helped the seller,
Right?
and if number two, there was the potential long term to realize an upside.
Right.
But I would only do that deal if I have explained to, and this is where like there's wholesalers and investors, right? I'm a licensed broker, and I
Right.
take that really, really seriously. And I will never, I would do a deal at my detriment to protect the seller, rather than rip off somebody to do it. I will never rip anybody off in that ever,
Right.
ever, ever.
Is that
ever,
a shot fired?
Huh?
Well,
Is that
no,
shots fired?
I don't think it's a shot fired.
No, it's not shots
I'm just
fired at
asking. I
all.
want to make sure. So, is that a shot fired
listen,
at wholesalers?
No,
right?
listen, no, it's not. It's not shots fired at wholesalers. There are people who will potentially take advantage of another human being, and that exists in everything. That exists in real estate.
Right.
That exists in every business there is. I just choose not to load my karma that way.
Right.
And I'm not saying that other people listen. If a wholesaler can take I have wholesalers. I'm on buyers lists. If there's a wholesaler who can get somebody out of a bad situation and they're not ripping off a seller, if they're helping a seller to realize the best possible situation, then great. Wholesalers don't have the same fiduciary responsibilities that agents do. And I would always caution. I mean, I don't know. I might be about to get shot here, right?
No,
this might be literally the last time I ever come on this podcast. But I would always caution, if somebody's getting a really great offer from a wholesaler, speak to a realtor and see if it is a really great offer. Just do your due diligence. And you know what? Sometimes the best deal is the one that you can get and the one that makes sense right now, and it's not the most money.
Right.
And if you're in dire straits and there's a wholesaler and they can get you out and it's quick and it's clean and you're okay with it and you've done your due diligence, good luck to you.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I don't have anything against wholesalers, but I have something against people that do bad business.
Yeah.
And that's realtors and wholesalers.
100%.
So like, if there's a situation, sometime that wholesaler is presenting a better solution than a realtor that's going to put it on the market. I think the confusion is a lot of the general public, especially when you deal like some of the lower end properties and things like that, people are not doing enough research.
Right.
So they're not getting an opinion from a realtor and what the wholesaler offered, or they'll just sign the contract and then they'll go look elsewhere and it's like, no, you can't do anything. You're already under contract. So that's where a lot of people get jammed up.
I think the one thing about a realtor is the hope, and again, there are bad realtors out there. The hope is that a realtor abides by the code of ethics and honors the fiduciary responsibility they have to their clients. A wholesaler doesn't have that fiduciary responsibility. And to your point, there are so many really good wholesalers out there.
Right.
They're actually looking to provide a solution to people.
Right.
There are also bad realtors and there are also bad wholesalers who are looking to take advantage of people. And I don't support any of that. Because there's not enough. I can't retire on the money that I make from one deal. Right?
I always say that.
I can retire on a reputation and a business that I build over time by doing the right thing by enough people. And I also really enjoy sleeping at night.
Lesson. So that's a lesson, Reg.
Right.
So I always say that. I'm never going to get rich off of one transaction, whatever it is.
No.
Right.
One transaction is not going to make me rich.
Right.
But that relationship
Yep.
is how you get rich.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, one of my best relationships is somebody who I quote the phrase, "I forbid you from buying this house."
Right.
I got fired for that.
Yeah,
Well-
we talked about that on the show.
Well, but so I did that, and I got fired for it too. And they bought it.
Yeah.
And then they called me 6 weeks later. They're like, "Can you sell this?" I'm like, no, thank you very much. I do not want that dog with fleas.
Yeah.
And that client has referred me so much business because I said to them, "I forbid you from buying it." They're like, "We're going to buy it. Write the contract." I said, "No, go find somebody else to do it. I'm not going to do it. Like, it's a dog with fleas."
Yeah.
Right.
And they would, and it's not, again, as a realtor, a lot of people make mistakes here. A lot of people think a realtor's job is to take your client's instructions, which it is. But what's the difference between a consumer and a client?
Your client, you have a fiduciary duty to.
To advise and counsel.
Counsel, right.
And when somebody says, "I want to buy," if you're, let's put it into something that the whole world can understand. I want to spend $1 million on a Ford Focus. No, I'm not going to do that because that's terribly wrong. But I want to do it. I want you to. No, I'm not going to let you do that. You want to spend $1 million on a Bugatti Veyron? Be my guest. Absolutely. 100%.
Say it again. Bugatti?
Bugatti.
Bugatti?
Bugatti.
Not Bugatti?
No, Bugatti.
All right.
Is that the proper? We got to look that up. What's
I
that?
don't-
Depending, if you listen
Listen.
to T-Pain, it's to Bugatti.
Yeah.
I don't
Bugatti?
I don't know
Bugatti?
what's proper or not. I just say Bugatti.
Okay.
All right.
I mean,
That's one
listen,
of them.
Right.
I'm just not from around these
The
parts.
$1 million car.
Right.
But I'm not going to let you spend $1 million on a Ford Focus. If you want somebody else to do that for you, that's on you. I'm going to tell you, don't do that.
Right.
And if I believe in it so strongly, like the person that I said, look, don't buy this house. I believed so strongly it was bad that even with their instructions and them signing a waiver that said he said don't buy it, I wasn't going to write the contract. Not with it.
I lost a lot of investors like that. That they're calling, they're just so amped up about Detroit, and they're like, "Oh, I want to buy this house," and I'm like, "Are you sure?" And it's not like a long-term play. They're like, oh, I just want to buy it, fix it, and flip it. You can't even flip in that area. Like nothing has sold over a certain dollar amount. You're going to put more into it than what the market is worth.
What did old Beardy Brandon have to say? Beware the $10,000 house.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I actually, before, when I was living in Chicago and I first started on this whole investment piece, and I was looking at cheap real estate, and Detroit kept popping up, and I'm like, I can buy a house for $1, $1. Oh my God, this is the greatest place, and this is utopia. And then, you know, but that's not real, because here's the problem. Furnace is the cost of a furnace, whether the house is a $1 or 20 grand or 40 grand or 100 grand.
Exactly.
Roof is a roof, shingle is a shingles, labor is labor.
Yep.
And none of that matters. Like you have to learn to analyze your numbers, and analyze your numbers properly, conservatively, and carefully.
Right.
And you have to have a strategy behind how you analyze your numbers, and the strategies will be different. Your investment strategy might be different to mine. Right. You might be looking for different gains. I'm okay spending more on a piece of property than maybe some people would say I should, air quotes listeners, that if I can realize a long-term gain that meets my goal.
Right.
But you've got to understand how to analyze your numbers, and you've got to understand what your strategy is. And I mean, it's the same as a business, right?
Right.
What's my strategy? What am I trying to achieve? How can I do it? And where do I go from here?
Right.
Right.
So you're investing, because the way you're talking about investing is like more or less some of the more like the big time investors, like a BlackRock or something. They're like, oh, we're going to buy this portfolio. How is it performing? What can we leverage against it, and that type of thing. But you can use that same strategy on a single family residence.
100.
And you should.
Yeah.
Right. So when you're talking about the appreciation, the tax benefits, that all still apply to a single family home.
But most people don't. They don't even think about the tax consequences.
The analytics on a single family home are the same analytics as on $100 million portfolio.
Right.
It is exactly the same, just with a few less zeros.
Right.
And a little bit less, risk. Maybe one might argue. And ultimately less upside. Right. Yeah.
Right.
But it's not like for me. This is I got into investing as my pension.
Right.
And then I kind of got a little hooked on it.
So question.
Yeah.
This is like the big question. 100 single family doors or 2 50-unit apartment buildings?
Preference? Is that a person? I mean, preference.
Because people give you different answers.
My preference has always
reasons.
been single family, because I can. I'll answer and then you can answer.
Right.
So my preference has always been, when I got into this, my goal was to get 100 single family residences over the apartments, because I felt like, and I had a guy that's he was wealthy, that was showing me that I need to buy the apartments, right?
Right.
But I said, dang, if I seen apartments catch on fire, one apartment catch on fire, and that whole building has to be shut down.
Right.
Right. So it's crazy, right? So that's
why it took so long to think about it. Right.
Yeah. So, but I feel like if I bought 100 houses, $100,000 houses, right?
Right.
One house catches on fire, it's not going to impact the rest of my portfolio.
Right.
So that's why I went with. That's why my goal has always been. That's still my goal right now. 100.
Well, firstly, you got to reanalyze your insurance and make
That's
sure
what
that you're covered for lost income.
Correct. Correct. But you're still not going to get. Well, go ahead.
Well, if you're insured for lost income, it doesn't matter. But personally, I would actually prefer 50 single families and 150-unit apartment building.
Right.
Yeah. Now, for me, the way that I built my portfolio, and I'm continuing to build my portfolio, I started off with single families because the barrier to entry was relatively low, and I could start and I could do what I said by realizing the five streams of income, right? So I could buy it with OPM, other people's money, or one of them was BOM. Bank of Mum, and so you can buy them with these private deals. In fact, even my wife was one of my investors at one point,
right.
and she got so
The
mad.
ex-wife or
no,
the current wife?
the current
Okay,
wife,
all
and she
right.
got so mad when I was late for getting the money back. I'm like, you're gonna get your money back, don't worry. And I was a bit late. She's like, is this how you treat your investors? I'm like, oh god, don't publish this. She's gonna get.
No, I'm just sitting over here saying, like, listen to Auntie. Go ahead.
Right.
No, the barrier for entry is really low, and the market I invest in actually isn't the Metro Detroit area. I've only been here 2.5 years. I haven't really had a chance to, because of my what I do daily with the brokerage and the time and the family and the house and all the rest of it. I've not really had a time to plug into the market here. So I'm talking about the market that I invest in, which is Champaign-Urbana in Illinois.
Okay.
And we can talk about why and all manner of other bits and pieces in a couple of minutes. But the barrier to get in there was for a single family home was relatively low. And I can break down numbers of a couple of deals for you as well if you want. I could amass single family homes by a little bit of money out based on that burst strategy that we talked about with the 5 streams of income, and a little money coming back with a profit for the flip, right? So my cash is growing.
Right.
And I can keep doing that until the cash that goes out and comes back is big enough that I can use that on a down payment for a duplex.
Right.
Then I can keep doing that when I can amass the cash for a down payment on a fourplex. Now what I've built is a track record.
Right.
Now what I've built is a proof of concept. And instead of trying to figure out getting money to buy a 50-unit apartment building off the lick without any experience, without any track record, and then no bank's going to look at me for that. And then I go to a private money lender, and the private money lender's, yeah, sure, 50%, no worries.
Right.
What you got, you know?
Right.
And listen, one of the first deals I did was a 25% private money deal. So I know the pain of it, but I had to do that in order to prove the concept. And actually, the sad thing is I made the deal work on 25%, but that's beside the point. I would rather have a balanced out portfolio. The bottom line is, we all know the math. Single family is empty.
Right.
You ain't getting anything.
Right.
A 50-unit apartment complex, realistically, is if you've structured your leases correctly and all the rest of it, is never going to be empty at one point.
Right.
But if you have 50 single-family homes, are they all going to be empty at the same time? And is the positive cash flow you get from 50 single-family homes able to support a couple of months of vacancy here or there?
Yeah.
Right.
So are you running each individual property as its own entity, or are you running the business as a portfolio?
Right.
And that's where the difference is, I believe.
Yeah.
When you grow to scale, in the first instance, unless you've got a lot of money, single-family homes make more sense, right? Because the barrier for entry is low. You can get in, you can deal with it. When it's vacant, you are going to have
some pain.
Exactly.
Right.
Should have counted that in the beginning, though. So you should use your 70%.
And you're right. And I mean, I analyze things on a 10-month lease, not a 12-month lease.
Right.
I use 70%. So you use 10 months. I use 70%.
Right. So I always look at is my cash flow net positive on 10 months, not 12. Right. Now, when we look at a big portfolio, would I rather 250-unit buildings? I would still rather have a balance because I feel I'm better spread, I'm better hedged.
Right. And a lot of people choose a single family in case they have to liquidate.
Correct.
It's always I can sell 10 houses out of the 50 or out of the 100 very quickly versus an apartment building. Well, it depends on the market.
No, you can always do it. It doesn't matter the market.
You see, that's interesting because I never ever think about liquidating.
And that's the thing I was going to say too. A lot of investors always think like short term, like you were saying earlier. If you're thinking long term wealth,
you're not getting out.
And that's when like the price and my market value is only this. That doesn't even matter unless you're planning on selling. As long as you're cash flow positive,
that's all you care about.
Yeah, that's all. You don't even care about the value unless you're going to refinance or something.
And I'm always thinking about maintaining over the long term because apart from not being a PGA Tour golf professional and not giving it that time, my biggest regret was selling the first property I ever bought. And the first one I ever bought was a little flat in this place called Ipswich in England. It was a lovely little flat. It was a 2-bedroom apartment. It looked over a hill. It was beautiful. And I bought it for £22,000. And a year later, I sold it for £44,000. And I thought I was, I mean, Grant Cardone ain't got nothing on me.
Right.
Let me tell you. I was like, well, how many jets can I buy with that 12 grand profit? And now I look at what it's worth.
Wow.
I'm like, yeah.
So Jay-Z, he
Right.
said that he sold what for $1 million?
Some painting or something.
No,
he said.
it was the was it the paint?
Yeah, I think it was the Basquiat.
Yeah, he sold
Yeah.
it, not knowing, but
Right.
same
Don't quote me on that,
concept.
y'all.
Yeah, but,
But
but at the time, and I mean, that was ultimately the money that I used to go around the world. And don't get me wrong, I had a rippingly good time on that money,
Right.
and I enjoyed it greatly.
Right.
But I mean, looking back on it now,
Yeah, I have that. So I had a condo in Ferndale. And I sold it like 4 years ago for
Oh.
$69,000.
Oh man.
I mean, listen, if we all had a degree in hindsight, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like my crystal ball's broken; it's in the shop.
Yeah,
Well-
it was a cute little place that I would love to still have to today. But it's like you said, what do you do with it? In my mind, I was like, I can leverage myself off of, I was 600% profit.
No, I mean, right. And at the time, you're like, well, this is a killer deal. But then you're only realizing one stream of income. You're only, and now I've grown to understand there's 5. And I'm not, like, if I went back in time, I'd probably do it again because I
Right.
did have a rippingly good time on that
Yeah.
money. But the long-term play, when you talk about having to liquidate,
Right.
I can't imagine ever. My long-term goal, to be honest, is the legacy that I can create. And if I can create a pensionable income from my investment portfolio that sees me through my dotage and ideally keeps me in the style to which I would like to become accustomed,
Right.
that's fantastic. And then if that becomes a legacy for the the dog's home that I'm going to leave it to or whatever else, great.
Right.
But I don't plan realistically on actually ever selling anything. The only reason I would sell something is to liquidate finance to buy something else is a better opportunity.
better return
Yeah,
on
better
your investment,
better
right?
Right.
opportunity.
Yeah, that's smart.
Can I take a selfie here for some social media?
Yeah,
stuff? All right. This is actually the greatest day of my life.
All right.
I'm sorry.
We're getting there.
Can you? There you go. All
Cool.
right. Sorry, carry on.
So, I do want to ask a question for your role at the brokerage you're at now.
Yeah.
You are a team leader,
Correct.
right? And I don't want people to confuse that with like a team leader, somebody that has their own team, but you are a team leader for the brokerage. What exactly is that role? And
So are we? Can we? Are we? I'm assuming we're being brokerage unspecific here and
Right.
agnostic, and yeah, okay.
Right.
So the brokerage I'm attached to is a brokerage that kind of speaks its own language.
Right.
Effectively, if we were to put it into corporate speak, I am the CEO of the brokerage company.
Okay.
So I run. It's a franchise model.
Right.
And there are investors who have invested in the franchise and hire me as
Right.
the CEO to implement their vision.
Right.
And that vision relates to the profit and growth of the office.
Right.
And so it's my job to implement their vision for the profit and growth of the office, and also to implement the core culture of the company.
Right.
And so to kind of oversee that. So actually, I'm not, although I'm a licensed broker, I'm not in production in terms of listing and selling and buyers and all the other bits
Right.
and pieces.
Okay.
So my day-to-day, my job is to make sure that real estate agents have every possible opportunity to create the business that they want,
Right.
and to ultimately be able to plan a life by design that they
Right.
create. And listen, all four, right? Shaka, your idea of success is different to mine, is different to Reggie's, is different to you, Jonnita. Like, we've all got different ideas of success. My job is to implement or to help to implement a strategy that allows you to financially compensate yourself for a business, for a life that you want to lead, through the ultimate magic of real estate. And I firmly believe that the opportunity that exists as a real estate salesperson, a real estate agent, is better than anything else out
Right.
there.
Right.
And look, it's not for everybody.
Right.
Success is very simple in this industry. It's not easy,
Right.
but it's very, very simple. And if you're willing to roll up your sleeves and you're willing to be coachable and you're willing to look at who's succeeded and how can I emulate it, and you're willing to grind a little bit and plug in and take some rejection, because ultimately, that's what business is. You know, that's my job. So I'm the CEO of the biggest real estate company in our immediate area. Our nearest competitor is about 50% our size, which is very exciting. And I coach, train, consult, recruit, headhunt, talent scout. Most people, when I call them, are like, oh, God, is somebody else going to try and recruit me? But what they don't realize is the reason I'm trying to recruit them is because I can usually provide them with an opportunity to save them money or at least offer them an opportunity.
Right. I
may not be able to, but I'm at least, I at least believe in what I do enough that I think that the models that I work in offer a terrific opportunity for other people.
Right.
And I'm willing to try and share it. And I hope people are willing to listen to it, and then they can choose for themselves.
Right.
So, layman's terms, you're Roger Goodell. Right?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, you're Roger Goodell. Yeah, okay, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I like to think that.
I don't know who that is.
You know, it was so apparently not layman's terms. It was a very
Adam Silver.
level.
You know who Adam Silver is?
Yeah,
you can Google it.
One of them, right. You know, either one, whichever one you choose.
It's you know, I'm the bottom line. Take brokerages out of it. Take any of it out of it. Look, real estate is. Show me a billionaire that doesn't have real estate holdings. I'll show you a lie. You know, real estate is an opportunity that should exist for everybody. And when the thing I love about my company is we really make sure that actually that is a true thing. Like it is open to everybody, and not everybody's going to be a great agent, but everybody deserves a chance. It's something that has changed my life exponentially. I'm a frustrated beach bum golf professional, wannabe furniture maker,
cowboy,
cowboy, failed. I mean, at one point I was even cleaning hotel rooms.
Wow.
I used to. So when I was working in the Radisson treetops in Port Douglas, Australia, and there was the hotel had this bird. He was called Bozo. He was a big old white macaw, and he used to sit on my shoulder and we'd go around and clean the rooms. It was great. So I'm all of that. I'm all of the things. But the bottom line is look, I want to share this with people and I want to help them get there.
Right.
And a lot of people look at me and they're like, oh, you just want to recruit. Oh, you just want to do this. Oh, you just want to do that. Do I bollocks? Like, seriously, what I actually want to do is help you to realize the opportunities that's right in front of you. And I'm sorry, let's be real for a second. The reason that most realtors are not realizing extraordinary wealth is because they're too either lazy or they're not willing to have that honest conversation in the mirror of what's missing in my life, what do I need, and who can help me get there. And that's it. There's no reason why every person that wants to be a real estate professional can't be if they're just honest with themselves.
A successful real estate professional.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
now
agreed.
Is that a true statement though? I'm sorry.
Facts.
Yeah. No.
Can everybody be a realtor?
Everybody that wants to put in that work. So no. He said that everybody
be successful.
He said everybody who wants to put in the work.
Yes.
No.
He's saying everybody that puts in, anybody that comes into the industry and puts the work in.
Right.
Why can't you?
But
be?
my question is coming from a different angle.
Yeah,
okay.
More so.
Well, no, she's saying people that can't even get their license because they have like a record or something.
No, not even that.
I went
Just
too
like
far
there's so many people that want to be an agent. There's so many licensees. There's so many like. I mean, if everybody in the world is a real estate agent,
they don't want to work. Wait, hold on. If you watched an episode of Selling Sunset and saw some Louboutins and a couple of Lamborghinis and you thought that looks like fun, cool, right? And then you're like, I want to be a real estate agent. Anybody in the world can be a successful real estate salesperson in the same way that anybody in the world can realistically do anything they want if they plug in and have the mindset to do it. And the bottom line is, the mindset is, number one, grit and determination. Number two, accepting of the fact that you have to learn skills. Number 3, accepting the knocks that you're going to get, which ultimately is going to happen. Number 4, the grit and determination to be able to focus on how I can continue to elevate myself. And if I'm in a down, how can I turn it into an up? Number 5, understanding that in the real estate world, there are opportunities for everybody to fulfill whatever they want. You may not be the person that is the driver. You may not be a rainmaker of a team. You may not be the person that is like me that wants to go out headstrong into the world. You may want to be the person who is just a key turner. I want to go show homes. I just want to help buyers. Great. Become a buyer's agent on a real estate team. And now you're fulfilling 2 roles. You're helping the driver who wants to grow its business, and you're helping yourself by getting into a position where maybe lead generation isn't your strong suit, but the driver is the strong suit, and you're helping them to fulfill the leads that they're generating they can't service, and you're also doing the thing that you love. There are opportunities in the real estate world for every single category. Every single category. All you got to do is find the right lane, and then to some degree, you've got to have that mindset of, what do I need to do? And you just got to be honest about it. What's missing in my life, right? Right now, what's missing in my professional skill set? If I want to become a real estate professional, and I'm going on 50 listing appointments and I'm not taking any listings, maybe your listing presentation needs some work.
Right.
If you're not able to get onto 50 listing appointments, maybe your lead generation needs some work. If you're not able to generate a lead for an appointment, but you're really personable, maybe you need to go and work on a real estate team and help buyers and families secure real estate, because that's what you're good at. Find your lane and be honest about it. And the second people start being honest in real estate, in anything, it is the second that you'll find success. And I firmly believe that there is a lane for anybody. And there are some people, if we take the DISC, right? You've got your DISC, right? If we take that, if you've got the people who are maybe not the high drivers, but are really good at the back end stuff, there's so many opportunities for admins, for contract to close, for coordinators, for people who can help a driver to facilitate where they want to get to. And if we break down a real estate transaction into the pre-face-to-face, the face-to-face, and the contract to close, all 3 of those buckets, usually the realtor goes, I'm going to do all 3 of those. That's wicked cool, but that's 3 different skill sets. And as an individual realtor, you're sitting there going, I'm going to be everything. I'm going to be the CEO. I'm going to be the CFO. I'm going to be the financial controller. I'm going to be the paperwork. I'm going to be the admin. I'm going to be the salesperson, the lead gen, the customer support. I'm going to be all those things. Can you imagine Richard Branson running Virgin Airlines being all the things? The guy can't even drive a plane.
Right.
And yet he runs airlines and hotels and media companies because he's factored into that one simple piece. Find a person that wants to do the thing that I don't, and create a world that's big enough for them to go do it.
Too many chiefs, not enough Indians.
I remember speaking to one mega agent, and he was like, yeah, all my buyer's agents make a minimum of $150,000 per year. And I went to his office, and I started counting how many buyer agents he had. And I was like, damn, how much he make? Right. Because if you're helping these people all make this amount of money, and he said minimum. So that means there was some people making a lot more. So I said they have to be very comfortable with their role to not want 100% of the pie and also 100% of the work. But he had to be comfortable with being able to give away, not necessarily giving away, but feeding them the leads that he probably would have made 100% of, but he had to split it in order to get 10 people that can make 100%.
The hard part.
I got to challenge you on this. There's one piece I want to challenge you on, because you use the phrase giving away or giving up.
All right.
Right? Now, the people, the buyer's agents that went onto that team probably assumed some lead generation and some lead flow that they wouldn't otherwise have had the ability to get or the want to get or the desire to get. And they wouldn't have got the administrative support that team provided. Right? So one might say that by them giving up the split, well, what would you, if you're an individual agent, what are you going to do? Go to that big website?
That's not doing so well right now.
We broke
I
them
feel
down.
the same way. Don't say it.
We broke them down completely. But yeah,
we had a whole episode on them.
You're going to go and spend $3,000 on lead flow that may or may not come through versus working with somebody that's got an ISA that's pre-qualifying leads and is going to give you an appointment.
Exactly.
Right. So you say giving up commission.
Right.
The bottom line is if a real estate agent took their business and broke it down through a budget and a profit and loss statement, they would be shocked at how much money they are not making.
Right.
Bottom line.
Right.
And so, when you talk about the rainmaker giving up or giving away, no, he's not. Because he's charging that person for the opportunity that he's created, and there's no way a rainmaker can scale outside of the hours that he's got in a day. He or she's got in a day. So if I'm a rainmaker, right? If I want to be a really consummate real estate professional, I'm just let's say I'm a realtor, right? I've started in real estate. I'm doing real good. Great. Now I'm the salesperson, the lead gen person, the admin person. I'm the contractor close. I'm the CFO. I'm all the hats, right? I'm all the things. And I've got 8 to 10 hours of work in a day. Maybe I've got a family. Maybe I want to go play golf at the weekend. Maybe I want to have some hobbies. My head's about to explode. The bottom line is, how can I scale a business to generate more income if I'm not willing to give up my time? I can't scale it because all I'm doing is selling my time for money. Right? Now, if I want to create an opportunity where I have to maybe take my commission check, cut it in half and give it to somebody else in tandem with what I'm doing, now my business is scalable because now it's infinite. Because if I split this deal and give it over here, I can split this deal and this deal and this deal. I'm still doing my deals, but now I've got 50 other people doing deals at the same time. I can't do 75 deals in one day. But I can create a business that does.
Leverage.
Moreover, leverage. But more importantly, not only do I create a business that helps me because I'm providing things that I'm charging for, I'm also creating opportunities for people that don't have the wherewithal to do it for themselves. And there are 3 types of people in this world, right? There's dependents, independents, and interdependents. And when we talk about your average realtor, how many people, Christ, Reggie, you run a team, right? How many people do you meet who come in and say, all I want to do is show houses at the weekend? Right? So create a world where they can go do that. And that means that you ain't got to.
Exactly.
And now, I mean, you got 8 hours in a day. How many houses can you show in 8 hours?
Not many.
16.
Probably 16?
16
Depends on where they at.
I hope they're close to each other. So let's say 1 an hour. So you can show 8 homes in a day. Right? Now, if you've got 4 showing agents who can also show 8 homes in a day, now how many can you show?
Scale that up.
Correct.
Right.
You leverage it.
So I object. I object to this idea of giving up. And I get it all the time. Like when I go and talk to an agent about, listen, how can I help you grow your business? They're like, well, I don't want to give up my commission. What would you rather, 100% of one deal or 75% of 30?
Okay, so on that note.
There you go, though. No, that was serious.
And we want to, but I do want to say this. So that is when we talk about the millionaire real estate agent. When we say we know agents that are millionaires, that's why.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
But still, on that note, because we have been here for quite a while.
Sorry.
We have fun. That's what happens on good episodes.
Right.
Go
ahead. I'm sorry.
All right.
Sorry. As you are. There's a guy watching the window.
Like us, subscribe on all of your favorite listening podcast stations. And Justin, we do have one more question for you before you go. We did figure out why he's such a great team leader. That was, amazing. But the final question that we had for you was, where do you see the market going in the next 5 years?
The real estate market?
Yeah.
There is no such thing as a bad real estate market. There is only the real estate market.
It's so
and it is
funny.
It is either as an agent, as an investor, you just have to position yourself on the right side of the coin. Prices will rise, prices will fall, interest rates are going to go up. We know that. So buyer's demand is going to slow. We know that. The bottom line is, look, that there is no bad real estate market because there are always transactions. And when the market shrinks, we tend to lose bad agents because the agents that aren't committed and the agents that want the easy button fall out. The agents that sustain over period. I mean, I've been in this business. Reggie, you're the same. How many recessions have you seen? 3?
Yeah, but 3.
They're calling you old.
Yeah.
No, I'm not old. I
experienced.
Experienced.
So
great.
no, I mean, look. The bottom line is, it's not about where I see the market going. It's about how I can help agents to position themselves for that market and help them shift and pivot their business to make the best of it for their consumer. And the only thing that matters in an up market, in a down market, in any market is the protection of the consumer and the protection of the realtor's fiduciary role in that in that transaction. And it doesn't matter if it's quote unquote media driven buyers, sellers, whatever it is, there will still be transactions. There will still be people that need to move. There will still be investments. There will still be money to be made. What is important is making sure that people position themselves to make the right investment, the right move for their family, for their situation, the right purchase, the right sale, and that realtors are there to protect them. That's it.
Boom. Mind blown.
And we never logged on to the MLS and it said 0.
Absolutely, not even when it was in folders,
right,
or envelopes.
No, you know, ultimately, if the pie shrinks and there are less realtors,
talking about her age.
You end up with you end up with a bigger slice of a smaller pie.
There you go.
That's it.
Mm-hmm. All
right, great show.
Where do we find you on social media?
Social media?
Yep.
You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. What am I? At Justin_OliverKW.com. Oh, can I say that?
Yeah, you can say that.
You can find me, there's a new coming YouTube channel.
Okay.
The most important thing, if you're in the Metro Detroit area,
right,
you can find me as the chair of the Government Relations Committee for the Greater Metropolitan Association of Realtors. And you can also find me as the chair of the new global initiative, which is gearing up to become a National Association of Realtors Global Council, which is going to help and counsel realtors who want to have inbound and outbound international transactions and boost the investment dollars coming in from outside of the country into our area to help stabilize our economy and grow our terrific city.
Justin Oliver, everybody.
All right.
Good episode. Great episode.
Oh, man.